She was a ghost in a gray uniform, just another cleaning woman in the glass fortress overlooking the Han River. But Minji Park saw everything. She saw the bruises on the secretary's wrists. She saw the ledger with 2 sets of numbers. And this morning, through the polished surface of a mahogany desk, she saw the driver's hand trembling as he checked his gun. When Kang Tae-hyun, the most feared man in Gangnam, walked toward the private elevator, Minji didn't see her employer. She saw a dead man walking. She had one choice. Stay invisible and survive, or speak up and become a target. She stepped forward and reached for his tie. The penthouse smelled like green tea, imported leather, and something metallic Minji couldn't name. At 26, she'd learned not to ask questions. You didn't question why a real estate developer needed armed guards, or why his guests left through the service entrance at 3 a.m. Minji-shi, Mrs. Choi, the head housekeeper, snapped in sharp Korean. Mr. Kang leaves in 5 minutes. The entryway must be spotless. Yes, ma'am, Minji murmured, keeping her eyes down. She moved to the marble console table, her cloth moving in practiced circles. That's when she noticed Sung-min, the head driver, standing by the elevator. Something was wrong. Sung-min was always stone-faced, perfectly still. But today, he was vibrating like a plucked string. Minji watched him through the reflection in the gilt-framed mirror. He adjusted his earpiece. Once, twice, 3 times. He touched the gun under his jacket, fingers hovering over the grip like it might bite him. He wiped sweat from his upper lip despite the air conditioning. Minji's blood turned to ice. That was the look her father had worn the night he went to pay back the loan sharks and never came home. The look of a man who'd sold his soul and was waiting for collection. He's going to do it, she thought. The heavy doors opened. Kang Tae-hyun emerged. At 34, he was devastatingly handsome in a way that made people forget to breathe. 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal Tom Ford suit. His face was all sharp angles and colder eyes. His black hair was swept back perfectly. He was on a call, wireless earbuds glowing. If the shipment is compromised, remove the middleman, permanently. His voice was silk wrapped around a blade. He hung up and strode toward the elevator, toward Sung-min. Good morning, Sajangnim, Sung-min said, his voice tight. The car is ready. Good. Tae-hyun didn't even look at him. Minji's heart hammered. If she said nothing, he'd get in that car. But nervous men didn't shoot. They bombed. Less blood, more distance. Tae-hyun was 3 steps from the elevator. 2 steps. Sajangnim. The word tore from her throat before she could stop it. Tae-hyun stopped. He turned slowly, his dark eyes landing on her like crosshairs. He looked annoyed. What? Sung-min glared at her. The boss is busy. Get back. To work. Minji ignored him. She walked right up to Tae-hyun, suicide in a gray uniform. Your tie, Sajangnim, she said, her voice shaking. It's crooked. Tae-hyun frowned. He reached up to touch the perfectly straight knot of his Hermes tie. It's fine. Please. She stepped into his personal space, smelling expensive oud and danger. Her hands trembled as she reached for his tie. Sung-min moved forward, hand going to his jacket. Hey, step back. Minji tightened the knot, pulling Tae-hyun's face down slightly toward hers. She looked directly into his eyes, her terror raw and real. Your driver has a gun, she whispered, barely moving her lips while her hands adjusted the perfect tie. And he's sweating. Don't get in the car. Tae-hyun went absolutely still. He didn't flinch. He didn't look at Sung-min. He just stared at Minji, reading the fear in her pupils, the pulse jumping in her throat. There, Minji said loudly, stepping back and smoothing his lapel. Much better, Sajangnim. Tae-hyun straightened. He looked at her for one endless second. Then his face became a mask of boredom. Thank you, he said coldly. He turned back to Sung-min. Let's go. Yes, sir. Sungmin pressed the elevator button, sweat now visible on his temples. We're running late. Taehyun checked his Patek Philippe. Actually, I forgot the merger documents. They're in my office. I can get them, sir, Sungmin said quickly. No, I need to find them myself. You take the car down, bring it to the front entrance. I'll use the service elevator in 5 minutes. Sungmin hesitated, just a fraction of a second. Sir, security protocol says... I said bring the car around, Sungmin. Taehyun's voice dropped an octave. It wasn't a request. Yes, boss. The elevator doors closed. The moment they shut, the temperature in the penthouse plummeted. Taehyun turned to Minji. He didn't thank her. He grabbed her wrist, his grip like iron, and pulled her behind a marble pillar. Who are you? He hissed, pinning her against the wall. Who sent you? No one. I just saw... Boom! The floor beneath them shook. A deep, thunderous roar echoed up the elevator shaft, vibrating through the steel bones of the building. The sound of shattering glass rose from the underground garage 20 floors below. Silence returned, but this time it was ringing. Taehyun didn't let go of her wrist. He looked at the elevator, then back at Minji. His eyes were wide, pupils blown. He was alive, and he knew exactly how close he'd come to dying. You just saved my life, he whispered, sounding almost offended. He pulled a gun from his waistband. Minji hadn't even seen it there, and held it at his side. Now give me one reason why I shouldn't put a bullet in your head to keep you quiet. 10 minutes later, Minji was in the back of an armored Mercedes G-Class, sandwiched between Taehyun and his head of security, a brutal-looking man, named Dae-jung. Seoul blurred past the tinted windows. Sirens wailed, converging on the tower they'd just fled. Taehyun was on his phone, his voice terrifyingly composed. It was the Busan crew. Sungmin was on their payroll. I want his apartment searched. I want his phone records. Find out who supplied the C4. He hung up and glanced at Minji. She was hugging her knees, staring out the window. Stop shaking, he said. I can't, she snapped, surprising herself. I'm not like you. I don't almost die before 9 a.m. every day. A flicker of amusement crossed his face. No, you just clean up after people who do. He poured a glass of amber liquid from the car's minibar. Drink, it helps. I don't want your whiskey. It's 25-year hibiki, worth more than your monthly rent. My rent is paid on time and doesn't come with car bombs. Taehyun actually laughed, a dark, dry sound. He downed the drink himself. You have a sharp tongue for a housekeeper. Park Minji, you know my full name already. I know everything about everyone who enters my home, he said. Park Minji, father deceased, mother in a nursing facility in Incheon. You dropped out of nursing school to pay her bills. No criminal record, no traffic violations. You're allergic to shellfish. Minji felt violated. Is that supposed to impress me? It's supposed to warn you. I am thorough. So if you're working for the Busan crew, if this saving me act is a way to get close... I'm not... The Mercedes swerved sharply. Contact! Dae-jung shouted from the front. 2 motorcycles, rear approach. Armed. Bullets raked across the back window, ricocheting off bulletproof glass. Minji screamed and ducked. Stay down! Taehyun roared. He reached under the seat and pulled out a compact submachine gun. They didn't just want to kill me. They wanted confirmation. He looked at Minji, huddled on the floor. Welcome to my world, Minji-C. Try not to get shot. 20 minutes later, 20, they arrived at a nondescript building in Itaewon. The garage door opened automatically, and they rolled into darkness. Taehyun dragged Minji out before the car fully stopped. Upstairs, now. They entered a loft that looked like a military command center disguised as a modern apartment. Exposed concrete, black leather furniture, and a wall of monitors showing CCTV feeds across Seoul. Taehyun shoved Minji toward a chair. Sit. I need to call my mother, Minji said, her voice shaking. She worries if I don't check in. Your mother is safe. I have a team watching her facility. Minji stood up, fury overriding fear. You put people near my mother? Call them off. Sit down. Tae-hyun slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Minji sat. Tae-hyun paced like a caged tiger. He'd removed his jacket. His white shirt was rolled to the elbows, revealing tattoos on his forearms. Symbols Minji didn't recognize but knew meant violence. Sungmin was with me for 6 years, he said quietly. He was loyal. Or so I thought. He stopped in front of her, leaning down, hands on the chair's arms, trapping her. His face was inches from hers. How did you see what I didn't? He asked. I was trained to see threats. I was raised in this life. You clean floors. How did you see the tell? Minji swallowed hard. Because you look for enemies, Sejangnim. You look for hate. And what do you look for? I look for pain, she whispered. People in pain make mistakes. Sungmin was in pain. He looked like he wanted to throw up. He touched the gun not because he wanted to use it, but because he was afraid of it. Tae-hyun stared at her. For the first time, the cold calculation in his eyes softened. You're observant, he murmured. And brave. Stupid, but brave. He stood and walked to the kitchen, pouring water. He handed it to her. Drink. She took it with shaking hands. The Busan crew thinks I'm dead, Tae-hyun said, watching the monitors. The news is reporting the explosion. That gives us a window. A window to do what? To strike back. But I can't do it alone. My inner circle is compromised. I need eyes, Minji. I need someone who sees what others miss. Minji laughed, a hysterical sound. You're joking. I'm a housekeeper. I'm not a gangster's... You're not a housekeeper anymore. Tae-hyun cut her off. You're the woman who saved my life. That makes you a target for them, and an asset for me. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The monitors went black. Dae-jung! Tae-hyun yelled. No answer. He drew his gun instantly, grabbed Minji's arm, and pulled her behind the couch. Stay low. What's happening? They found us. His jaw clenched. Tracker. Must have been on the car. The steel door began to spark as someone cut through it with a thermal lance. There's no way out, Minji whispered. There is. Tae-hyun looked at a ventilation grate high on the wall. But you're going to have to trust me. I don't trust you. Then trust that I'm the only thing between you and the men who want to skin you alive. The door burst open. Smoke grenades rolled in. Tae-hyun fired into the smoke. Move! Climb! He boosted her toward the vent. Minji scrambled, her nails tearing, kicking the grate open. She looked down. Tae-hyun was holding his ground, dropping bodies as they emerged from smoke, but there were too many. Go! He shouted. Come with me. I can't fit. Go! A bullet grazed his arm. He grunted, stumbling. Minji made a choice. She reached into her apron pocket, still somehow on her, and pulled out a bottle of industrial-strength bleach she'd been carrying. Hey! She screamed. 2 gunmen looked up. Minji hurled the bottle. It smashed on concrete, exploding in blinding, choking fumes. The men gagged, clawing at their eyes. Tae-hyun seized the moment. He vaulted onto the shelving and grabbed Minji's hand, hauling himself into the vent, just as bullets shredded where he'd been standing. They were in the dark shaft, breathing hard, bodies pressed together. You threw cleaning supplies at hitmen, Tae-hyun wheezed. It was bleach. It burns. He started to laugh, breathless and adrenaline-fueled. He pressed his forehead to hers. Remind me to give you a raise. The rooftop wind bit through Minji's thin uniform as Tae-hyun pushed open the access hatch. Below, Seoul glittered. 20 stories of deadly drop. Move! He emerged first, scanning the area. The adjacent building was 3 meters away. 3 meters is far, Sejangnim, Minji whispered. It's Tae-hyun, he corrected. And it's that or a bullet. Your choice. Gunfire erupted from the hatch. Get ready! Tae-hyun took a running start and launched himself across the gap. He landed hard, rolling, then scrambled up. Your turn. Minji stared at the chasm. She'd never jumped anything wider than a puddle. I can't. You can! Tae-hyun fired a warning shot. Jump! Bullets chipped concrete beside her. Minji closed her eyes and ran. She launched herself forward. For one terrifying second she was airborne, wind whipping her face. Her fingers scraped the edge. She was short. She screamed as she began to slip. Tae-hyun threw his gun down and lunged, catching her wrists. Her body dangled over the 20-story drop. Hold on! He grunted, his wounded arm screaming. His grip was slipping. Kick! He roared. Get traction! Minji thrashed, boots scraping brick. With a final desperate heave, Tae-hyun pulled her up. She slammed onto the roof beside him. They lay there, chests heaving. You made it, he said, a ghost of a smirk on his lips. You threw your gun down for me. Don't get used to it. But his eyes held something unreadable. An hour later, they were in a hidden safe house in Yongsan, a fortified apartment disguised as a normal residence. Tae-hyun peeled off his bloody shirt, revealing a powerful, scarred torso. The bullet had grazed his shoulder. Nasty, but not critical. Sit, he commanded. I need to clean this. Let me help, Minji heard herself say. Tae-hyun paused. You're a housekeeper, not a medic. I was in nursing school for 2 years before I had to drop out. He looked at her, considering. Fine, but if you try anything? I'm not trying anything, Tae-hyun. She took the gauze. Her hands were steady despite everything. She cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency, fingers brushing his warm skin. He watched her closely. The air between them crackled with tension. Dangerous intimacy born of shared trauma. You're good at this, he admitted. I had to be. My mother has diabetes. I learned to be careful. So you care for people, Tae-hyun mused. You clean their wounds. You save their lives. He paused. But who takes care of you, Minji? The question hung in the air. No one, she whispered. No one ever does. Tae-hyun reached out, his hand brushing a Siyua's strand of hair from her face. His touch was hesitant, almost tender. Maybe, he said, his gaze locking with hers. That's about to change. Days bled into nights. The safe house became Minji's gilded cage. She listened. She observed. She saw patterns in Tae-hyun's phone calls, the way his jaw tightened when certain names came up. One evening, Tae-hyun was pacing, frustrated. The Busan crew is hitting all my fronts. Someone inside is feeding them intel. Someone high up. Minji looked up from her book. Who knows your plans, Tae-hyun? My inner council. Jae-sung, Hyun-woo, and Min-ho. Men I've known my whole life. What about your tech guy? Who handles surveillance? That's Min-ho. He built all our encrypted systems. Minji's mind went back to the warehouse. When we were at the safe house, the power went out before they breached. Wouldn't Min-ho notice that? Tae-hyun frowned. He claimed it was an EMP. An EMP that only affected your building? Minji asked quietly. And they found this safe house, which only your trusted advisors knew about. And your secure lines are compromised. And they used a thermal lance on doors Min-ho installed. Tae-hyun went pale. The pieces clicked. Min-ho insisted Dae-jung come to the building that day, Minji continued. And Dae-jung died. He was the only one who could verify Min-ho's story. Tae-hyun walked to a computer, pulling up old footage. They watched in silence as a maintenance worker exchanged a subtle nod with Sung-min before the explosion. He built the network, Tae-hyun whispered, hands clenched. He knew every back door. He didn't just sell me out, Minji. He orchestrated it. The hurt in his voice was devastating. Min-ho had been like a brother. What are you going to do? Minji asked. Taehyun's eyes blazed with dangerous fire. I'm going to remind everyone in Seoul why they fear the name Kang. The confrontation happened in a private room at a traditional Hanok restaurant. Minho was brought in, confused and defensive. Taehyun, what is this? The Busan crew is attacking. You mean your employers, Taehyun said smoothly, stepping into view. Minho laughed nervously. That's insane. I've been loyal for 15 years. Loyalty is a myth, Taehyun said. Proof is facts, and my housekeeper found them. Minji stepped into the light, no longer trembling. You said Daijung died in the EMP, but they didn't use an EMP. They used a thermal lance. The power failure was internal, and you control the internal systems. The cleaning contractor you hired 6 months ago, Taehyun added, the one who signaled Sungmin before the bomb. He's your cousin, changed his name. A ghost you fed into my system. Minho's face crumbled. How? She doesn't look for enemies, Minho. She looks for pain. And she saw the truth you missed. Sungmin's sweat, the flickering lights, your lies. Taehyun grabbed Minho's tie, pulling him close. You killed Daejung. You tried to kill me. 15 years of trust for cash. They threatened my daughter, Minho choked. The code is everything. Taehyun shoved him away. Take him. As Minho was dragged away screaming, Taehyun stood silent. He was your family, Minji said quietly. I know. She walked up and gently smoothed his collar, a simple act of comfort. Taehyun caught her hand, eyes searching hers. You saved me, and you found the cancer. You're more than my eyes, Minji. You're my conscience. I don't want to be your conscience. I just want my life back. You can't have it. The moment you adjusted my tie, you became part of this. The Busan crew knows you exist. They know you're why I'm alive. If I let you walk away, I'm signing your death warrant. Then what do you want from me? Taehyun stepped closer. I want you to stay. Not as a housekeeper, not as a hostage. As mine. You see truth. You keep me honest. You're the only person I can trust in this entire city. He leaned in. I'm offering you protection, wealth, power. But most importantly, I'm offering you a place where you belong. Where you're safe. With me. He kissed her. Not soft or romantic. A kiss of raw need, survival, and the terrifying realization they were linked by fate and death. Minji resisted, then melted into it. She was trapped. But for the first time, she wasn't alone. Epilogue. Months later, the glass fortress overlooked the Han River again. But everything had changed. Minji stood in Taehyun's new office, no longer in a gray uniform. She wore a sleek black suit, her title fluid. Chief strategist, personal advisor, the woman who spoke his mind before he did. Taehyun emerged, dressed for a high-stakes meeting. The ritual remained. My tie, she said, stepping toward him. You know it's perfect, Minji. Perfect isn't enough. She smoothed the silk, tightening the knot. But her eyes weren't on the tie. They were scanning the room, checking shadows, looking for the next threat, forever vigilant. Taehyun caught her hand and kissed her palm. I asked you once, who takes care of you? And you protect me while I do it, she replied. He smiled, a real smile. Together they walked toward the elevator, stepping into the future they'd built from ashes. The tie between them unbreakable. Minji Park didn't choose the darkness, but the darkness chose her. In the space between a whisper and an explosion, she found terrible power. The power of seeing truth. She traded her uniform for a seat at the table, not as a conquest, but as an indispensable partner to one of Seoul's most feared men. Kang Taehyun's empire was built on violence, but it was saved by observation. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a warning. The quiet ones, the observers, the ones you dismiss, They're the most dangerous. They hold the secrets. They see the fear. They adjust the tie. If you loved this deep dive into loyalty's cost and ruthless love, smash that like button. Tell me in the comments, would you have made the jump? Share this with someone who needs high-stakes drama. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the next chapter in the shadows.